Hello, ladies and gentlemen, players and viewers, to another scene set in World of Darkness. Darkness in Dublin. Vampire the Masquerade venue. And this evening, we are present with two members of the Clan of the Rose, the artisans, sometimes not so affectionately referred to as the degenerates, although they just prefer to call themselves Toreador. Francis Beaumont, the sheriff of Dublin and ever patriotic member of his clan, friend to all who carry the title of Clan Toreador, has invited Monique, child of the Master of Harpies, Delano, out for a gallery viewing, a night out on the town, as it were, a chance for them to acquaint themselves with each other. Being that they've only met once, and it would, at least in Francis's mind, behoove them to learn more of each other. Of course, if they both plan to stay in Dublin, they'll have plenty of time. And does Monique have a specific location where she wants? Actually, does Monique make her way to the gallery herself, or does she ask, or does she want like Francis to pick her up from a location, because he does offer?
Well, either way, I could either take a cab or whatever is, convenient. I don't drive.
Well, Francis very much is happy to say that he does, and we'll offer to pick you up wherever you want to be picked up.
I suppose from Delano's place, probably.
Sure thing. You make your way over there, and he will, Francis, after the call's over, Francis will make his way down to the restaurant. If you're waiting outside, you see him pull up in a rather sporty and somewhat ostentatious-looking vehicle, some sort of Aston Martin variant.
Nice. So, are we now in the car, or I'm waiting for?
Oh yeah, no. He pulls up. He pulls up along the side of the road in front of the restaurant. In this vehicle. Sorry. You see him, and as his car slows down, comes to a stop, he will get out of the vehicle and say, good evening, Monique. How are you doing?
Good evening. I'm good. So, where are we off to?
Well, I thought we might take a trip down to the Hugh Lane Gallery, but honestly, the ball is in your court. We can go wherever you want.
Well, a gallery is always a place I feel at home, so let's go with that. Do you know what is being presented there?
Yes, they have several collections, mainly Irish contemporary artists.
Mm-hmm.
Very modern stuff.
Uh-huh, I see. Well, I guess sometimes we have to see some more modern stuff. I'm more used to the classics, but
They
it's
do
good
have
to
a.
well, it's good to shy away from work sometimes and do things for fun.
I'll keep that in mind the next time uh, we uh, we go out together. They do have a stained glass room, if that interests you.
Well, not that much. There's not that much money to be made in stained glass, if you know what I mean.
Suppose you're right.
But I suppose at some point maybe I would want to branch out to different genres. So seeing more contemporary art might actually help me in the future.
You replicate artworks.
Well, I restore artwork officially. Now, unofficially, yeah, I do some copying.
Improve upon the original, do you?
Well, no.
Hmm.
But it's usually done legally. Like, it's not a pretense that it's an original, just a copy. Now, don't get me wrong, I have done forgeries.
Oh, have no fear. I won't be reporting you anytime soon.
Well, nobody's an angel.
Still, I believe of all people, it behooves us to try. After all, we have an example to set.
Oh, certainly. But generally speaking, I have enough work as, you know, just selling copies. I don't need to go into actual counterfeiting unless I really need a big amount of money, and that doesn't happen very often. So I think it's safe to say I won't expose us to any unnecessary attention.
I might require your expertise sometime, if you wouldn't mind.
Certainly. I mean, if you think you've been duped by someone, I could tell you if it's original or not, if that's the kind of thing you need.
It's not that, per se, rather that my numerous havens are rather bare, and
Oh, then I'd love to put some decoration in that.
I think it could use your magic touch, yes.
Well, I will see to that then as soon as you really, anytime you need.
Hmm? Of course, I'm happy to pay full price your services.
Well, I
I
guess friendly price would be more appropriate in our situation. After all, we're trying to establish something quite important for our clan here.
only if you insist.
Oh, I do insist. Money is not the most important thing after all.
Then I shall accede to your request. I am very thankful. But please let us be on our way.
Certainly.
He will open the door for you.
I will nod and thank him. Nice car.
Thank you. I've never been much of a street racer, but
Oh, I've
I'm
never
at least
been anywhere near cars.
I'm at the very least obligated to travel in style, and well, I suppose in my line of work, at some point I'm going and to end up in at least one car chase or another. So why not pick the best?
Oh, I agree with that. I never really picked up driving.
One second, I don't know if. Okay. Well, as I said, I'm no street racer, but I can teach you some of the basics.
Well, if it becomes necessary, certainly. If not, well, that's why we have Uber.
If I may be your Uber for this evening, it would be my honor.
Thank you for that.
And he'll begin to drive off towards the center of town. He does drive fairly hastily, but not inelegantly. He doesn't drive amateurishly. He seems to be a fairly competent driver. He does push his boundaries somewhat, though. He's pretty much at consistently 10 over the speed limit, so he's a pretty fast and impatient driver, but fairly comfortable experience.
But I don't have much fear of speed, so.
Oh no, yeah. He's just I'm just kind of describing how quickly he drives and kind of how he goes about his form of travel. As he's driving, though, he does say, "So, if I may ask, I forget. I'm not sure if this was covered at our meeting, but how long have you been in Dublin?"
Well, not that long, really. I mean, I've been with Alexander for less than 15 years now, honestly. I just found myself here on a commission, and, well, the rest is history.
Francis looks a little bit surprised as he's driving, and he says, "I didn't know you were so young. You clean up quite well after yourself."
Well, pretty good teacher, I'd say.
That's true. It is difficult to find a finer sire than Delano.
From what I've seen, I would definitely agree with that. I was very lucky on that department.
Yes, I must admit he is somewhat more well versed in these matters than myself. As I said at our meeting, I am somewhat unusual for our kind, but a necessary part of it.
Unusual in what respect?
Well, I'm sure you have noticed the the way in which Clan Doriador picks its particular childer.
Oh, that, yes.
Now, we're fairly diverse in how we decide amongst ourselves what a talented or artistic individual is, but I was chosen for my athletic abilities over anything else.
Well, there are many types of talents. Some are talented in painting, some are talented in creating music, some are talented in ending lives in creative ways. I don't judge.
I must say, I do lean towards the more martial aspect of our clan's ideas, although I'm sure you recognize that from my title.
Yes, I expected as much. I mean, it is necessary for a serf.
So I trend less towards artistic and social pursuits, and more towards the defense of those very individuals.
Well, that's an equally important job.
Thank you. If only more people agreed with you.
Well, you have to understand, though, that people are the, construct of their own time. I am not that old. I tend to keep an open mind on many things. And also view art as a more broad spectrum.
Do you want to roll perception empathy on Francis when you say construct of our own time?
Uh, One sec. Perception, empathy. 3 and 3. Can you do the roll for me? Because I'm at the same time in it.
Yeah, sure thing. How many
6 in total.
6 dice? Not bad. Oh yeah, are you using Auspex?
Uh, I don't think I would be in that
Okay.
situation.
You get 2 successes. So yeah, he does smirk when you say constructs of our own time. That's something you notice. Well, I am very happy that you keep an open mind about these things. It has been a very trying many years for me, and it appears Dublin is not giving me any room to breathe in that regard.
Did you have a better time in Paris?
Sometimes. But just as many times as I returned to Paris to give myself that reprieve, I was recalled to Paris just as many times to resolve various problems within the domain.
I see.
I travelled with my sire for many years before I went my own way, and even after I did, I was still held to the same standard under which I travelled her with. I was her servire, if you know what that means.
Not exactly.
It's an assistant, a supportive figure to an archon or justica.
Ah, I see.
They are generally specialists or general security for that figure. In my case, I was a student. And my place as her servitor was to learn from her example.
And what were you taught?
Francis smiles as he kind of um, as he kind of drives onward. His mouth lies open for just a few seconds, as if he doesn't know what to say.
I'm sorry if I overstep. I'm just not personally familiar with your sire.
Oh no, it's quite all right. It's just that I was taught such a great amount. Is I'm not entirely sure where to start. I was taught how to fight, although I knew how to fight before I was embraced. But I was told how to fight, what to fight, what to look for, and how to look. I could spot a Sabat ambush from a mile away. It's been drilled into me so many times at this stage. But I
Well,
was also
I would probably need some more
I
experience in that department myself.
honestly I hope you never meet them.
Well, hoping is one thing, but being prepared is another. We can't predict what will happen, and it's better to hone our skills. I mean, some years ago, I didn't expect any of this.
Hmm. You seem to have handled it well though.
Well, I welcomed it actually. It was quite refreshing from the life I had. And let's be honest, the prospect of not dying from old age is pretty good.
That's the trick. One has immortality. Now we just need to know how to keep it.
Yeah.
But that is also why I say I hope you never have to meet the Sabbat. Uh, or any connected to their ilk. I have been on this world for a while. I have seen many, many things. But there are dead things that trouble me, even people like me.
Well, I fully expect to meet them at some point. Not looking forward to it, that's for sure. But I don't doubt that it will happen.
If the Sabbat come to this city, I know Delano has probably already told you, but please do not throw yourself onto the front lines.
I don't think I would. I would probably be the first to run out of there, if we're being honest.
That is honestly the most responsible thing you can do. Unless called upon by the domain itself, by someone like the prince or I.
Exactly. But I don't think I would be any help to anyone being dead. And the best way to become dead is to deal with forces that I can't deal with.
Hmm. And you have plenty of time to develop those skills.
Exactly. I'm not in any hurry to test myself.
Nor
Unless,
should you.
well, unless it's requested of me. If I'm given no choice, I'll have to manage.
There may come a time, but as sheriff, I will do my utmost to ensure that that never happens.
I'll be very grateful to your assistance in that regard. I think it's going to be some time until I'm fully capable without any assistance, if ever.
you are you are talented. Just give yourself the time. I
Well,
didn't expect.
time is something that we have now, don't we?
Hmm. Honestly, time is curative.
I wonder though, for someone who has been around for a long time, how does time pass comparatively to before your embrace?
Hmm.
I haven't actually discussed this with Alexander at all, which is funny because perception of time should be different, I assume.
It's say stop at a light. Francis looks at you and he thinks for a moment. His eyes kind of linger off to the side as he searches for words. It's difficult to define to someone who hasn't been through it. It's a very strange experience. Not as it happens. As we go, we live our lives night by night, same as you. It's the the, the difference is imperceptible night to night. It's when you look at it from a retrospective.
I
It's
mean, even for humans, it feels like years pass fast. Is it the same? I mean, the time that I have been around that doesn't seem all that different, honestly.
years become months, but rather than the speed of time, it is that is not necessarily what is so different. Rather, it is how we perceive the past. It is almost like how one used to look back at their memories as a child. They all just blend together. But then there is these moments one can recall with perfect precision. Moments of clarity within decades of living and activity.
I suppose it would be a curse if you could remember every moment.
Some of us can.
I assume that would put a great burden on one's mind.
Some of us are more afraid of forgetting than remembering. Personally, I can recall most of my life with a fair degree of precision. But there is just as much of it that is imprecise, unclear. I can remember certain things, but not necessarily in the right order. Again, like looking back to a memory that occurred as if
How
I were a
about people?
mortal child. But I suppose that is what it is, after all.
Do you remember your family? I mean, I do remember mine, but I had lost them long before I was embraced, so it wouldn't matter. This is what I always wonder what it's like for someone who does have, you know, a life to leave behind. Was it like this for you?
My apologies for being as rude as I am bold, but I find your curiosity quite cute.
Well, I guess it's one human trait I have retained.
Hold on to it.
I intend to if it's up to me.
It's why I say there are as many of us that are afraid of forgetting as remembering. A lot of people like to define older kindred as callous and calcified and cruel. Many of us go through the same struggles as younger kindred, just in a different way. If anything else, the battle has become even harder.
To be honest, I haven't yet discovered that we are any different than humans. I mean, humans can be cruel as well. Many of them are. And some can be kind, some can be, you know, on the fence. And I think the same applies to us. And the fact that many of us are presented as something more sinister might be, I don't know, defensive?
I have a hard time finding you to be sinister, Monique.
Oh, I'm no saint, believe me. Let's just say I tried to be as good as possible, but my moral compass can be bendy. I mean, after all, people are gray.
Is that not the best part?
Exactly. Things would be terribly boring if everyone was kind or if everyone was evil. We all have potential for both. Thing is, to choose when to use what.
Quite right. The world is never as simple as it seems. As Francis begins to approach Hugh Lane and finds a parking space. He just gets out of the vehicle and will open the door for you again.
As expected.
Hmm. He will offer you his arm.
I'll take it.
He'll begin walking with you to to the entrance of the gallery.
Do we see anyone there that we know?
It's probably super late. Probably not, no. Probably just mortals, what few are left. Looks like we've hit upon the quiet hour.
Well, I don't mind that. I don't like very loud places. I prefer that I can hear my thoughts. At least at certain times.
I shall try not to
Don't get me
interrupt.
wrong. Well, don't get me wrong. I won't say no to any parties anytime soon, but a gallery is a place of peace.
I'm going to have Francis roll manipulation of subterfuge.
What?
I'm having Francis roll manipulation of subterfuge because you may not agree. He gets 4 successes. You can try and pierce through his subterfuge with perception empathy if you want, which is 6 dice. Because
yeah. One sec.
you need 5 successes to beat him. Because he got 4. So he's put on a pretty convincing face.
Six. This is a long ass thing to type. Well, now.
Oh wow, you do actually beat him. As he looks upon the various art pieces, when you say that, there's a look of skepticism.
You don't believe that a gallery is a place for peace?
I have seen art and expression incentivize as much conflict as I've seen it quell, to be completely honest. A gallery is, in many ways, a repository of past moments of expression.
Well, that it might be true, but they are viewed in a more peaceful setting. You don't expect to experience conflict in such a place.
I suppose the average person would not know.
Well, I'd hope the non average person wouldn't either. I mean, it is a place to appreciate. Nothing more to it.
You got 5 successes on the empathy, so when he says the average person, you say, well, I hope the non-average person would not. It seems to be implying that maybe Francis has seen conflict in a gallery before.
Well, in the sense that, yeah, a fight can occur inside a gallery, that doesn't mean that it's the norm. Anything can happen. But
Yes.
when you're consumed by art, it's peaceful for your mind. That's what I mean.
do you feel peaceful right now?
Well, when we look on the artwork more and speak less, perhaps, I think it has to do with, it's personal thing. It's your inner peace, so to speak. Like
Hmm.
looking at art, it is kind of a meditative moment. I'd argue even a religiously motivated moment.
You see art religiously.
Well, not exactly. But I do consider art to be a form of spirituality. Both
Hmm.
when you create art and when you experience it. I don't know how to better express it.
It's okay. I think I understand your meaning. I've
I'm pretty certain that you can also experience this if you give it a chance. I mean, it's definitely in your blood.
I've definitely felt it many times.
So you know what I mean.
I've just never heard it expressed in such a way.
Well, to be fair, I was pretty entranced by art even before my embrace, so that might be part of why I feel a certain way about it. But, you know, some people consider this to be a hindrance that, art might actually be our undoing. Well, which is possible because I have found myself sleeping away just looking at something pretty. But I think it's worth it because the world is very ugly.
True, but I hardly think you'll be my undoing anytime soon.
Well, I don't plan to be.
He kind of lets the conversation lapse and allows you to kind of gather your thoughts on the art pieces, kind of reached out in a piece you spoke about. So the conversation just falls into silence for a few minutes. Does Monique look like she finds some sort of peace? Does she become entranced by any of the art pieces?
She's more intrigued by them because contemporary art is a bit questionable to put it simply. It does, but it is thought provoking. So she tries to figure out what it is that she's seeing there without
Hmm.
the input of the artist or whoever is there. By the way, are there any annoying people there? Because usually in these places there are annoying people trying to explain what the artist means by what you see.
There's probably a guy doing like a tour or something. He's being that guy you spoke about.
Yeah, we can ignore that guy. Nobody likes that guy.
Bring him up just to shoot him down. Yeah. Oh, there is. Monique would notice there is a refurbishment project going on.
I mean, I could inquire for work on that, but if it's contemporary art, I don't know if I would be very confident doing it. But I would be interested in watching how they do it. Would I
Hmm.
be able to, convince someone to let me into that thing?
Um, maybe something you need to speak of Evan about. I'm a player, so I can't make that call. It's just something I saw on the gallery website, so I decided to put it in the scene.
Okay, I'll make a note about it and we'll bring it up with Evan then. Because that would be good. I mean, I could
Hmm.
branch out a bit.
Yeah, Francis just focuses on a lot of the art, but he doesn't seem particularly enraptured by any of them.
Yeah, but is he peaceful?
Hmm. He looks well composed, and he looks well, fairly calm in the sense that he's going through all the usual tics of blinking and breathing, um, despite looking a bit pale as a kindred. He doesn't. He looks. Yeah, he looks neutral, but he doesn't look calm. In fact, when you're looking at the pieces, he looks somewhat uh, almost disappointed or impatient.
Do I notice that?
Yeah, we'll say you do.
I take it that this kind of art isn't your cup of tea.
Hmm.
Well, we can agree on that. But I do find it interesting, like how they end up with 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 these pieces. I mean, things change and art changes with them, and not always for the best. Maybe next time we should go and see some classics.
I'll defer to your expertise on that one. He smiles, his seeming disappointment or impatience fading away as the two begin to speak again.
So I'm guessing no piece in particular had gotten your interest in here.
No, no, it's. Hmm.
Well, we can play a game then, based on what we see. Which artist would you kill? Which one would you ignore? And which one would you embrace?
This game sounds familiar, Monique.
Well, I changed it a bit. After all,
restoring games now instead of art, I see.
well, if you're not interested in this kind of art, let's do something fun.
Hmm. Let's see. Kill. I'd kill Pollock. Get that one right out of the way. I don't consider myself a critique of any sorts, but I don't consider throwing buckets of incoherence onto a canvas to be art in any capacity.
You'd be surprised, though, that his compositions were actually, they had some form to them. You know, it wasn't random. But I see where you're getting with that. I mean, if I were to kill one, that would be Marcel Duchamp. You know, that's the person who uh, put the urinal up for display and presented it as art.
Ugh.
Yeah.
We can firmly put him in the ignore group.
No, that would be in the kill group for me.
Hmm. Just ignore him. He's not even worth a bullet. But
The one I would embrace is Klimt.
is... Sorry, I didn't hear you.
Klimt. Gustav Klimt.
Oh, interesting.
And I can tell you why. I think he's the perfect marriage between the classical world of art and the more modern art. Like when he started, he was more into the classical field and good at it. And then he completely reinvented himself and used mediums and techniques that nobody had done before. He was a true artist in the whole sense. Who would you choose?
Hmm. Francis thinks. As I actually look at the things. He does remain silent for quite a long time, as he really does consider him to himself.
Well, you don't really need a plan to capture them first. I mean, probably not.
I think I think I would have embraced Mary Cassatt. She was she was an American impressionist.
Oh, I see.
Spent most of her life in France, though.
Have you met her?
Wouldn't you like to know?
Well, I did ask, didn't I? Well, it's alright if you don't want to tell me, though. I do respect your privacy.
Maybe. Maybe for another time.
Certainly.
He kind of smirks, enjoying the idea of this sort of leverage.
Well, I do make a mental note of that.
He kind of it's fairly teasing.
You know, if you wish, I could copy some of her work for you. Now, I don't know if I could fully capture her soul, so to speak, but I could try.
He he doesn't how to say, he takes your hand and he says, "If you could, I wouldn't forget such an act."
Then it shall be done. Just let me know if you have a preference for a specific piece that you would like, and I will study it.
Thank you, Monique.
You're welcome.
It's very kind of you.
Oh, don't worry about it. Creating art is it's my lifeblood. It's what I do.
Literally.
Quite so.
I don't think you could have been a more natural fit for our kind. I have to admit, I envy it.
There's nothing there to envy. Just part of who we are. And it is why the Lana chose me after all.
Very true.
I mean, the commission that I had taken was for him. And at first, I have to admit, I found it odd that my presence was requested here.
We're tricky like that.
Well, I wouldn't say tricky. It was a good opportunity for me at the time. I mean, you don't get uh, propositions like that every day.
True.
And let's be honest, I had good reasons to stick around.
Oh, very. I'm glad you did.
I do miss Paris, however. I do visit from time to time, but it's not the same anymore.
Are you released from your sire's tutelage? You're a neonate. You can be your own person.
Certainly am. However, I actually like the arrangement we have with Alexander. I learned from him.
Well, let me offer you this. If at any time you feel the burden of being without Paris too much to bear, just give me a call. I have a free invite back to the domain at any time. And I am more than permitted to bring a +1.
That sounds good. I mean, I think I probably should start being a bit more social. Like, certainly, I've been too preoccupied with my work that I have. Well, let's say I haven't been so involved with the clan as I should have been.
You are here with me this evening, are you not?
Well, yeah, certainly. And after introductions, which happened because I was encouraged, in a sense, to be a bit more involved. And I agree that it's about time I am.
That may be on me. It was I who called the meeting. I wish to meet all of the Toreador within the domain. Having
There's not many of us, certainly.
Well, there is still one of us I've yet to meet, who actually owns an art gallery of his own.
Oh, I would love to meet this person.
Hmm. Maybe if fate permits, we might go together. But if not, I can always arrange a meeting between you two after I meet him.
That
I'm
would be
sure he'd be
great.
happy.
I do hope so. I mean, my work is right up his alley, I suppose.
Hmm.
And I do take my work very seriously. By fault, I'd say.
Yes. But as peaceful as this place is, I'm sure you're growing tired of
That is true.
it.
It's not my style of art, certainly.
I'll keep that in
I
mind
think
next
it's
time.
easier to replicate, however. I don't know if it's that easy to create originally.
The best pieces are always the hardest to replicate.
Not necessarily. I mean, established artists have very specific ways of doing their work, and it's easy to replicate them. Now, creating your own style, that's a bit more complicated. And of course, when it comes to well, the more modern arts, well, many of them are trash. And not necessarily in the bad way. I mean, in literally, they can be created by rubbish. That doesn't mean they're bad, but one person's inspiration isn't necessarily another person's, if you know what I mean.
I think I understand you.
Yeah.
Is there anywhere else you'd like to go?
To be honest, I'm not very familiar of which parts of town I can go to or what is available to us at this hour. So I will leave it up to you.
Hmm. I've never been good at on the spots. On the spot events. Hmm.
I mean, we can always return to the restaurant.
I would at least like to show you down Black Rock before we go.
Oh, that would be a good opportunity indeed. I haven't been much around this part of town.
Yes, it's mainly residents and restaurants. There is a rather lovely park on the north end, though. It's just off by the
Is it
coast.
is it safe?
It's my domain. It is safe.
Oh. I have been told to be cautious of parks. That's why I asked.
I would never allow anything to happen to you within my domain.
That I believe, yes.
So, would you like to go for a short walk down Black Rock Park?
Certainly.
Excellent. He will. Yeah, I guess they'll just exit the gallery. Just kind of wrap an arm around her and kind of escort her to the vehicle.
Well, she follows normally.
Well, pardon?
She follows.
Yeah, Francis does actually appear to be quite affectionate towards you. He's
I
very. Well, pardon?
wonder if I'm gonna take advantage of that in the future.
Yes, he is. He seems to be very thoughtful of you.
Well, I would think so. I mean, the harpies kid.
Of course.
I have responsibilities, but I'm also a responsibility. I would assume, right?
Well, as a neonate, you're not held under the accounting anymore, so you're not. You do reflect on him, but you are also free to make your own decisions now. So
Well, yeah, but you do. Your character does have some responsibility towards Delano to keep his child safe and everything. That's a perk. I like that perk.
hmm. That might be why he's got you wrapped around him.
Well, I would argue she has him wrapped around her finger. Well, no.
Mutually beneficial then.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Not
he'll
yet,
go.
anyway. But he knows.
He opens the door for you once more.
What?
He opens the door for you once more to the vehicle.
She will enter.
And he'll drive off towards the park. And they'll make their way towards the park where it is it is night, but it's an upper class area, so it's fairly well looked after. You know, crime in general is lower. There's a stronger police presence, that sort of thing.
Oh yeah, if it's the upper class part of town, I would expect so.
Yeah.
That's the same thing everywhere.
Still a park, but also less likely for a crime to be committed in this particular park. And yeah, it's quite spacious. There's a big lake in it. It's very pretty to look at. There's a little island in the middle of the lake, full of foliage and like some sort of like little Greco-Roman structure. It's actually pretty interesting. This whole big trail. There's a tree that looks a bit like a crucifix, which is interesting.
That's interesting. Yeah.
It is. It appears to have just grown that way naturally. I'm looking at it right now. It's actually really strange. There's actually some pretty nice gardening arrangements actually around the park, it seems. It's just a really well looked after park. Um, and Francis will just walk with you. Again, his arm wrapped around you, and he'll kind of. To walk out the park, he just stops by a railing that kind of overlooks the coast. Just kind of looks out to it.
Is it how dark is it? Like, can we see how flower colors or the green, the grass and other
It's
stuff?
if they're under light or close to lamp lights, yes. But or street lights, sorry. It is pretty dark though. It's like the middle of the night now.
So look around. Well, if it's one thing that I miss, is being able to look at nature in the light. Like, I'm not sure I remember the actual color of flowers. I mean, I see them in pictures, but it's not the same, is it?
Francis, he does is he takes your hand and with one of your fingers, he kind of has it touch the side of his eye, and he says, "That is why we are gifted with a sight few other kindred possess."
Oh. So I can see that better without specs.
Let your senses sharpen, and soon you'll be able to take in all the colors you can imagine.
But are they the true colors?
We only see the true colors.
So how do I do that? One moment, I will have to
Yeah,
open.
what is Monique's Auspex level?
Uh, my aspects. It's 3.
Oh yeah, she can easily sharpen her senses.
Oh, with heightened senses, I.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I
Uh,
love how the lights dance along the surface of the water. It's interesting how nature and technology come together to create these little things.
uh, give me a second. I'm trying to open the book, but I don't remember what it is.
Uh,
Okay, here it is.
Heightening your senses doesn't cost anything. It's a
Oh, it
reflexive
does.
action.
Oh,
What it does is you can magnify any of your senses or all of them at once. So you can enhance any one sense, any two sense, any three sense, or just all of them, whatever.
no,
You
I
can
think just the vision would be enough, right?
Yeah, and you can look where Francis is looking at, and you didn't really see it before because the light was too low and the water was too dark. But under heightened senses, you can actually see like uh, the way the light refracts and reflects and kind of shimmers across the water with your heightened senses. Perhaps not as clearly as Francis can, but you can see it. And it's not something. In fact, you know because you're having to use your heightened senses that you know it's not something a mortal could see. It's something a kindred could see, though. Just a very low-lying shimmer of light that sort of moves with the water.
But do I see anything out of the ordinary?
No, no. Francis just seems to be admiring the landscape with his sights, with his auspex, it seems. But it is nice to look at, and perhaps it's somewhat more infusing due to the fact that you know only kindred can see this, only people like you can see this, only the gifted can see this.
Am I entranced by it?
If you feel like it would entrance you, you can roll self-control. But that's up to you.
Well, I don't think I have done the heightened senses thing in that kind of of setting before, so it would probably be something, uh, that I would need self control over.
The beauty of it perhaps surprises Monique. Yeah, in
Uh,
which case, roll self-control if you want to do that.
that's
I'll roll for Francis as
4.
well.
Um,
Um,
Success is 6 again, right?
yeah, Francis gets one success, so he's not entranced, but okay, so
Okay. Yeah.
Both Monique and Francis are almost entranced. In fact, perhaps briefly for a few seconds they are, before the light shimmers back to a less the lighting in the distance, perhaps moving boats, causes it to shimmer away in a different direction, or the pattern, the almost imperceptible pattern along the surface of the water is uh, just kind of breaks apart, and it is no longer as beautiful as it once was. Francis looks somewhat nostalgic upon looking at the water. You see, that is our gift as Toreador.
So, how about the other clans?
Way to kill the mood, Monique.
Well, to be honest, I haven't met that many, so I am quite curious about others as well. I mean, I've been here and there in social things, but I haven't really spoke in depth with anyone, and I would prefer the perspectives from different people.
What would you like to know? He kind of encourages you to lean against him.
Well, are there some people in particular I should avoid, or people that I can trust a bit more than others?
Well, it goes without saying that you can always trust us over anybody else.
Oh, that goes without saying.
Hmm. If I were to ask you to avoid anyone, it would be the Anarchs. They are. They've never been completely on board with the Camarilla, but recently they've been acting in a very dangerous way, and I have reason to believe that very dangerous people lie among them.
I see.
There's also a Tremere called Ivanov.
Oh, yeah, you spoke of him the other night, didn't you?
Hmm. He's made some faux pas, broken some promises, and, well, you know how you're the child to a very successful Toreador.
Yeah.
He's the child to a very dangerous and very, very, very wanted Tremere.
If I'm completely honest, the Tremere, from things that I know about them, I don't know how much association with them I want.
They're very secretive and very stuffy.
Yeah, I guess it's a good idea to be cautious of them.
Hmm.
But I have heard that they do offer specific services. I do hope I don't need them anytime soon.
Keep it in mind if you do, but as you say, keep them at an arm's distance. Clan Ventru is a bit more amenable to us than most other clans, and, well, one's the prince, so try to be on good terms with them. As for Clan Malkavian, well, we discussed them a few nights ago.
Yes. Well, they don't really pose much of a competition for us, so I'm not really concerned about them.
I don't think you should be. But they are very unpredictable. Potentially very useful, potentially very dangerous. They seem to oscillate from one to the other, night to night. But it appears they've, in Dublin, settled upon the idea that they're going to be embarrassments. So we may be okay.
Well, time will tell. I mean, I fully expect their little endeavor there to fail.
Hmm. And like always, it will come down to people like you and me to pick up the pieces.
Well, eventually. But if all our plans uh, fall through, then we'll be fully prepared to do so without a hitch, I expect. I just hope that they will not see our establishment as a competition to them.
Well, boo-hoo if they do. They only have themselves to blame in that case.
Well, yes, but we do need to convince them as well that we're a neutral party and we want everyone's best interest.
Well, ultimately, if they choose to disbelieve us, they can disbelieve us, but they shouldn't. They shouldn't be expecting any special treatment. If they want to think we're not a neutral party, then they can believe that. We will still treat them as such.
I mean, to be fair, every clan is looking for their own.
As they do. I suppose that does bring us to the Nosferatu.
Oh, yeah. They make me a bit uncomfortable.
They tend to make everybody a bit uncomfortable. But in spite of their. And he kind of waves his hand around his face. They can be quite useful.
I mean, yeah, if we can get over the. Makes the same gesture around her face. That is a bit of a problem because I. I want to be polite, but there are certain things I just can't ignore. Like, it's not like just being deformed, it's a different kind of thing with them.
Then mask it. We all wear masks, Monique.
That's true.
They need not know how you feel on the matter. And frankly, if they decide to confront you about it, then they are rude for doing so. It is their burden.
That's true, I suppose, and I guess they expect us to feel a certain way about them. It's not like they're not used to it by now, right?
I mean, most of them make their homes in the sewers. They have a pretty good picture of what their deal is.
But
But
I would keep them like in good favors with them. I suppose they have access to information that, I mean, everyone could find something useful, right?
They can make up for their appearance in what they tell you, yes. It is why we have them around, so you are quite right. Then there's the Bruja and the Gangrel, and I haven't really heard much of those, so I suppose no news is good news. The Gangrel tend to be rather standoffish, so don't be too insulted if they decide to not come to our fabulous parties. They'll think they're too good for it, and then begrudgingly come at the very end anyway, only to find out that the party's over, and that they missed out on all the fun times.
Well, would they be turning us down necessarily be a bad thing? I don't know. Do they smell?
Well, most of them sleep in the dirt, so yes. But like for Nosferatu, they have uses, and I have met more than a fair few that clean up quite well after themselves and really do combat the stereotype that they're all noble savages. It is something of a stereotype, I must admit. I'm falling into it a little bit. But many of them are much more presentable and do make the effort. And considering that many of their clan generally disdain putting in an effort, as if it's pandering, I don't know why, they should be respected for that. They do face a lot of pushback from their clan, sad it is to say. As for the Bruja, well, you'll have the ones who turn up in suits, and you'll have the ones who turn up in some sort of 70s punk rock attire. There's no real middle ground of them.
Well, I find them quite interesting.
They're, hmm, they can be fun to play with sometimes. They have quite the temper. If you know how to work it, some very interesting things can happen.
I mean, would I want to press their buttons though? I've heard that they frenzy easily. Is that right?
Oh, yes. The Parisian Elysiums are never boring, thanks to the Bruja.
Sorry, I missed you. Can you repeat?
He said, oh yes, they do. The Parisian Elysiums are never boring, thanks to the Bruja. Sometimes they need to be pushed a little bit. Many of them tend to be very critical of the very society they're a part of, while actively contributing to that which they criticize. They usually don't like being reminded of that, but sometimes they need to be.
Well, I hear you.
All I'm saying is that if you're looking for a spectacle, push a Bruja's buttons.
Well, yeah, but we're planning on being neutral, so maybe we should leave that to somebody else. Like the Ventru.
Oh, the Venture will do an even better job of it than we can. Which is why we'll be there to make sure nothing goes awry.
I am looking forward to starting this venue. honestly. I do need to make myself busy with something different for a while.
Yes, and it would make me happy to spend more time with you.
Do you think we'll have any trouble with it with the prince?
I don't think so. At worst, we may have to offer some sort of boon to the prince, but other than that, there shouldn't be an issue. You can trust me and your sire to ensure the ball gets rolling.
Well, it's in capable hands, so I wouldn't worry about it too much.
The last thing I think either of us want is for you to be idle.
Um, what being idle? I didn't catch the first part.
She said, sorry, Francis said, the last thing I think either of us want is for you to be idle.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Although I do have some things to do. After all, I promised you a copy of a painting, didn't I? And I am hoping that before the opening of our establishment that it will be ready.
I am looking forward to it.
We could even make a presentation there if you wouldn't mind that.
I think I'd love that, Monique.
That's great because I love showing off my work.
As you should.
If you're good at one thing, why not show it?
Couldn't agree more. Well, I suppose at this point you've got a dozen messages from Delano, so
Yeah, I should probably check up on him.
where
he's
would you
quite
like to be? Oh, sorry.
he's quite protective on me still.
I can see why. You are someone worth protecting.
Oh, thank you for that. I hope I'm not taking too much advantage of it, though.
You could never take advantage of me, Monique. He wraps his arm around your waist and takes your other hand.
Oh, sorry, out of character. Do we use phones and things like that in this setting? Because I really haven't checked that part. Is it in the rules? something happening with your connection? Can you hear me?
Oh, I'm back. Okay, cool.
Okay.
Sorry.
Was it out of the plague?
Well, pardon?
The mic.
Oh, yeah, it's back. It's fine now. Um, so yeah, all Francis does, he just wraps his arm around your waist, takes your other hand, and asks you where you'd like to go.
Probably back to the restaurant to check up on Delano, and I'll probably go to my own place later on during the night or before the dawn or whatever.
Okay. So they'll head around to Delano's restaurant and probably check on Delano, and he's probably busy at work. Because Evan isn't here, I'll say Delano is not available right now. One of the very few times he's not available for his beloved child.
It happens.
Shock and horror. Unacceptable. I suppose Francis will have to do. And yeah. You asked Francis to take you back to your haven?
Yeah, probably. I just don't know where it is.
It's okay. He'll drive you
I haven't really thought about that part.
That's okay. He'll drive you back regardless. And once he makes his way back, he gets out of the car and opens the door for you again. And he says, I hope you had a nice evening, Monique. I know it was a bit impromptu.
It was very pleasurable. I hope you had a good time as well.
I
And
very much did.
next time we should go to a place with more, you know, classical art, something we can more appreciate.
I'd like that. I'd like that, I think.
I'll keep an eye out and see if I can find something. I do often hear about new collections coming in,
Hmm.
so I will let you know.
I
I
look
can
forward
always use
to
the
it.
company.
Same here. I rarely get these opportunities since I've become sheriff, so I appreciate it.
Well, that's what we're here for.
Fun and fireworks. He will take both your hands and softly kiss you on the cheek. You'll say, have a nice evening, Monique.
And you as well.
And yeah, Monique goes back to her haven, and Francis will take his leave. And I think that's where we can end the scene. Thank you, player, for playing. Thank you, watchers, for watching. We'll see you all next time. Goodbye.